Article 4. Whether sacred doctrine is a practical science. We proceed thus to the fourth article. It seems that sacred doctrine is a practical science. Objection 1. For a practical science is that which ends in action, according to the philosopher. But sacred doctrine is ordered to action. Be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only. James chapter 1 verse 22. Therefore, sacred doctrine is a practical science. Objection 2. Further, sacred doctrine is divided into the old and the new law, but law pertains to moral science, which is a practical science. Therefore, sacred doctrine is a practical science. On the contrary, every practical science is concerned with human operations, as for example, moral science is concerned with human acts, and architecture with buildings, but sacred doctrine is chiefly concerned with God, of whom rather is man the handiwork. Therefore, it is not a practical but a speculative science. I answer that sacred doctrine, although it is one, as we have said in Article 3, extends to all things which belong to different philosophical sciences, but it considers in each the same formal aspect, namely so far as they can be known in the divine light. Hence, although among the philosophical sciences, one is speculative and another practical, nevertheless, sacred doctrine includes both, just as God by one and the same knowledge knows both himself and his works. Still, it is speculative rather than practical because it is more concerned with divine things than with human acts, though it does treat even of these latter according as man is ordered by them to the perfect knowledge of God in which eternal happiness exists. This is a sufficient answer to the objections. Article 5. Whether sacred doctrine is nobler than other sciences. We proceed thus to the fifth article. It seems that sacred doctrine is not nobler than other sciences. Objection 1. For the nobility of a science depends on the certitude it establishes, but other sciences, the principles of which cannot be doubted, seem to be more certain than sacred doctrine. For its principles, namely, articles of faith, can be doubted. Therefore, other sciences seem to be nobler. Objection 2. Further, it is the sign of a lower science to depend upon a higher, as music depends upon arithmetic, but sacred doctrine receives from the philosophical sciences, for Jerome observes in his epistle to Magnus that the ancient doctors so enriched their books with the doctrines and opinions of the philosophers, that thou knowest not what more to admire in them, their profane erudition and their scriptural learning. Therefore, sacred doctrine is inferior to other sciences. On the contrary, other sciences are called the handmaidens of this one. Wisdom sent her maids to invite to the tower. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 3. I answer that, since this science is partly speculative and partly practical, it transcends all others, whether speculative or practical. Now, one speculative science is said to be nobler than another, either by reason of its greater certitude or by reason of the higher worth of its subject matter. In both these respects, with science surpasses this science surpasses other speculative sciences in point of greater certitude, because other sciences derive their certitude from the natural light of human reason, which can err, while this derives its certitude from the light of the divine knowledge, which cannot be deceived. In point of the higher worth of its subject matter, because this science treats chiefly of those things which by their sublimity transcend human reason, while other sciences consider only those things which are within reason's grasp. Of the practical sciences, that one is nobler, which is ordered to a further end, as political science is nobler than a military science, for the good of the army is directed to the good of the state. But the end of this science, in so far as it is practical, is eternal happiness, to which, as to an ultimate end, the purposes of every practical science are ordered. Hence it is clear that from every standpoint it is nobler than other sciences. Reply to Objection 1. It may well happen that what is in itself the more certain may seem to us the less certain on account of the weakness of our intellect, which is dazzled by the clearest objects of nature, as the owl is dazzled by the light of the sun. Hence the fact that some happen to doubt about articles of faith is not due to the uncertain nature of the truths, but to the weakness of the human intellect. Yet the slenderest knowledge that may be obtained of the highest things is more desirable than the most certain knowledge obtained of lesser things, as is said in the treatise on the parts of animals. Reply to Objection 2. This science can, in a sense, take from the philosophical sciences, not as though it stood in need of them, but only in order to make its teaching clearer, for it takes its principles not from other sciences, but immediately from God by revelation. Therefore, it does not take from the other sciences as from the higher, but it makes use of them as of the lesser, and as handmaidens, just as the master sciences make use of the sciences that supply their materials, as political of military science, that it thus uses them is not due to its own defect or insufficiency, but to the defect of our intellect, which is more easily led by what is known through natural reason, from which proceeded the other sciences, to that which is above reason, such as are the teachings of this science.